pollutants, what are environmental pollutants, what are its sources, and how it affects, what are its effects, what are its controlling measures. All those things we are going to discuss. We are going to discuss in this chapter. So in this module, we have environmental pollution. We have what in detail we are going to study in this module. We have what are the different types of pollutions, like definition of a pollution, types of pollutions, air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution, land pollution, and radioactive pollutions. Different kind of pollutions we are going to study. And this, are you able to see the screen?
No, ma'am, not shared.
Okay, one second. So in this pollution chapter, I think now you are able to see, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. In this pollution chapter, what different types of pollutions we are going to see. We are going to study in detail and about air pollutants, air pollution, about water pollutions, and about noise pollution, about land pollution, about radioactive pollutions. In detail, what are its pollutants, what are its sources, what are its effects, and what are its controlling measures. All these things we are going to discuss in this chapter. First, let us see what is the definition of a pollution. So pollution is nothing but it is, first we'll see what is environment. The word environment is a French word. It is a French word which means it is a surroundings. It is the sum of total all biotic and living and abiotic, that is non-living factors that are surrounded and potentially influence the organism. This is called as environment. So any harmful substances which contaminate this type of environment, that type of harmful substances is called as pollution, is called as pollutants, and that pollutants which causes contaminates the environment, which is called as pollution. And usually the pollution refers to a very bad condition of environment in terms of quantity and quality. This is the nothing but the word environment means and what are its substances and how it causes the pollution. When it comes to the atmosphere, the first is atmosphere. When it comes to atmosphere, the atmosphere, what is atmosphere? What is atmosphere? It is, the atmosphere is a life blanket of the earth and it is essential. And about the atmosphere and the ways which is polluted, it get considered as safe and when it comes to harmful dust and gases. So this atmosphere, it contains it contains air and it is a mixture of gases surrounds on the earth's surface. It consists of nitrogen 78%, oxygen 21% and other gases 1%. It consists nitrogen 78%, oxygen 21% and other gases 1%, which includes these other gases, which includes carbon dioxide, argon and water vapor. This is water vapor. So this is the air mixture, usually it is present in the atmosphere in the form of a gases. So this takes place in the environment. If the changes takes place in this environment by a natural process, if any changes occurs in the environment by natural process or by man-made process, then pollution observed in the environment. See, if any changes, what type of changes? Any type of changes, whether it is naturally or by artificially, that is by man-made, that observed, whatever the pollution observed, it is observed in the environment. That changes observed in the environment, which is called as pollution. So the next, what are the causes? The causes of pollution, the causes of pollution is tremendous increase in the human population. First one, rapid industrialization, increase the exploitation of nature, natural process such as like earthquake, forest fires, automobiles, domestic fuels, and any high proportion of undesirable gases such as sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, dust, mist, smoke, carbon black. So these are the causes of pollution. Majorly because of all these changes in the environment, it causes the changes, it causes the pollution. So we'll see how it affects. See, some pollutants are visible, some are invisible particles. Any visible or invisible particles are gas found in the air that is not a part of original normal composition. See, you can see here, this is a forest fire in this picture, and in this picture you can see how the like the gas is evaporating from the industries, exhaust from the industries, and this is how we are polluting the environment, the dust, the cement, and whatever the we are dumping on the earth surface. All these changes the environmental ecosystem, the conditions. Few are visible, few are invisible particles. So this causes the change in the environment. So now next, if you see, what are the natural process and unnatural process? Natural process like forest fire, these type of pollutions occurs naturally, like forest fires, pollens, and dust storm. These are all naturally occurring substance pollutants. Unnatural occurs are like man-made, coal, wood, other fuels in cars, from the exhaust from the cars, domestic homes, and the factories or industries. These are all unnatural, which are artificial exhaust. And usually, what is a air pollution? Air pollution means, the previous slides we have seen what type of the pollutants and how these occur in the changes, right? How these changes in the pollutants, in the environment causes. Now, briefly we'll discuss in detail what is air pollution, what are the pollutants which causes air pollution, and what are its sources and its effects. So, air pollution is a colorless, first what we will see, what is air. Air is a colorless and a odorless. And this air is a colorless and odorless. But these various pollutants from natural or man-made sources are entering into the atmosphere daily and disturb the dynamic in equilibrium in the atmosphere. See, and few because of man-made or artificial things are naturally, some of the pollutants are entering into the atmosphere and it is polluting. So such type of polluting the environment, such type of pollutants or process is called as air pollution, which is usually called as change or disturb in the normal properties. Change or disturb in the normal properties of air are called as air pollution. So what are its pollutants? Usually the air pollution causes because of two types of pollutants. One is primary pollutants and the second one is secondary pollutants, secondary air pollutants. Only these two types categorized into two types of pollutants, primary and secondary. Primary air pollutants are, these are directly in nature, emitted directly to the atmosphere, called as primary air pollutants. Example, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrous dioxide. So these are primary pollutants. CO, SO2, NO2 are primary pollutants. We will discuss what are the sources of this carbon, what are the sources for carbon monoxide pollutant, What are its effects? What are its ill effects? And how do we control this carbon monoxide? Sulfur dioxide in detail and nitrous oxide also in detail we are going to study primary pollutants. Similarly, we have secondary air pollutants like the pollutants, the secondary air pollutants secondary air pollutants which are derived means which are extracted from the primary pollutant, which are derived from primary pollutants, they do not emit directly but to the atmosphere, but they are derived from the primary pollutants, which are extracted from the primary pollutants. That type of pollutants are called as secondary air pollutants. Example, ozone, which is not directly liberated. This is being synthesized, it is being extracted from the primary pollutant. And pan is nothing but peroxyacetyl nitrate, which is also derived. Photochemical smog, which is also derived. H2SO for acid fumes, HNO3, it is also derived. These are all called as secondary air pollutants. And these pollutants do not have any identified sources and they are formed in the atmosphere by some chemical or photochemical reactions. So basically, air pollutants are two types, primary air pollutants and secondary air pollutants. Primary air pollutants are which exist directly or which exit indirectly into the nature. They are called as primary. Secondary air pollutants are which are derived from the primary pollutants. They are called as secondary pollutants, which is very very important in this topic. And we will see one by one what are the major pollutants. Major pollutants like carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, hydrocarbons, particulate matter. So important. Every topic you are going to study here, and ground level ozone. So in detail, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, hydrocarbon, particulate matter and ground level ozone. So each and every pollutant, its important, its sources and its effects, ill effects in detail we are going to see. Every air pollutant is a air pollutant. Remember one thing, sources are same, ill effects are minorly, it changes from one pollutant to another pollutant, but it affects the human being. That ill effects you have to see, you should see what type of pollutant it is and what are its effects and how do we controlling measures, how do we control these type of pollutants in the atmosphere. So this is about major pollutants. So now let us see about first carbon monoxide. So till here understood? Till here understood, clear? The pollutants, the major pollutants of the atmosphere.
Yes, ma'am.
You have studied these things? Pollution chapter?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, in
So,
school.
okay. So that is why it is very easy, I think, to understand these topics. Okay. But every pollutant will be asked for 7 marks in the exam. Okay. This is very important. Carbon monoxide is, what are its sources? First see its sources. The sources are, what is carbon monoxide and what is its sources? Carbon monoxide is colorless, odorless. Usually it is doesn't have any color and it doesn't have any odor. It is a colorless and odorless. It is produced when carbon does not burn in the fossil fuels. Usually it will produce from the fossil fuels. Present in the car exhaust and deprives the body of oxygen, causing headaches. This is the ill effect, fatigue and the impaired vision. When it comes to the sources, natural source, which is a forest fire. Natural source, usually a forest fire, natural gas emission, volcanic actions, and produces carbon monoxide. The sources means from natural source, forest fire, gas emission, Volcanic action, carbon monoxide. Anthropogenic, what is its anthropogenic is? It is a cigarette, BD, smoke, and what is the domestic heat appliances. Example, these are all the anthropogenic for this other than sources of other sources of carbon monoxide if you consider it. When see the reactions, how it causes. See here it is the incomplete combustion. Carbon react combustion with the oxygen is required to burn the carbon. So when it takes place incomplete combustion, the reaction between it is not properly, so the combustion takes place, then this carbon combine with oxygen and it liberates carbon monoxide. This is called as incomplete combustion of the fuel in the fuel. So what are the reactions between the carbon monoxide and carbonaceous material at a high temperature? At a carbonaceous material, any type of carbon dioxide which contain a carbonaceous material, when you burn at a high temperature in presence of carbon, also it liberates carbon monoxide. And dissociation, once it dissociates of carbon dioxide, also gives carbon monoxide and carbon. So basically three: incomplete combustion and the reactions of carbon dioxide with the carbonaceous material, and dissociation of carbon dioxide gives carbon monoxide and carbon. And also carbon monoxide liberates during the decomposition of chlorophyll. During the decomposition of chlorophylls, this you can see, these are the reactions where exactly the carbon monoxide liberates to the atmosphere. So when you see the effects, causes headache, visual difficulty, paralysis, and even death. It causes a chromic effects include weakness, fatigue, increased in the blood cell and the blood, and it reacts with the hemoglobin to form carboxyhemoglobin. See, when it combines with the hemoglobin means HbO2, it contains oxygen. When it combines with this carbon monoxide, combines with this to give carboxyhemoglobin with the liberation of oxygen. So this is one very toxic where it affects the human health. So in presence of carbon monoxide, it reduces oxygen carrying to the blood, because carbon monoxide, when it reacts with the hemoglobin, it forms a carboxyhemoglobin. It reduces the oxygen carrying blood cells. Whatever the oxygen carrying blood cells are there, that will be reduction. You can see reduction in the oxygen carrying blood cells. And it causes a serious effects on the cardiovascular system, thereby causing heart diseases. High concentration of carbon monoxide can affect leaf drop, leaf curling, and reduction in the leaf. This, apart from the human health it is affecting, it also affects to the plants, because it increasing the carbon monoxide more than 100 to 1000 ppm. You can see there is a leaf dropping, leaf curling, and reduction in the leaf size. So compared to the previous size of the leaf, you can see reduction in the size of the leaf. Apart from this human health, it also affect the if you increase the carbon monoxide percentage above this ppm, it also affects the agriculture or a plant size also. So how we can control this carbon monoxide? Just by modification in the internal combustion engine, so that combustion takes place properly, and also development of exhaust system reactors, in inversion of exhaust system reactors which will completely combustion process, development of substitute fuels and gasoline which will yield low concentration of pollutant upon combustion, development of pollution free sources such as fuel cells to replace the internal combustion engine. So this is how we can control the sources, we can control the liberation of carbon monoxide. If you adopt all these measures, We can control the carbon monoxide liberation into the atmosphere. So what is the question expected here from this chapter? This topic is explain or describe or illustrate or how carbon monoxide affects the environment. Describe the carbon monoxide sources and effects and controlling measures. So this is how the possible ways of asking the question. Whatever they ask the question in the IA or in the exam, you need to write these are the sources and anthropogenic react, these are the reactions and these are the effects in points and the controlling measures. This is about carbon monoxide. So understood? If you have any doubt? You have any doubt, or else shall I continue next? Shall I go to the next topic? Any clarification is required in this?
No, ma'am.
Okay, whatever they ask about the carbon monoxide, you have to write these sources, effects and the controlling measures. If you see the next pollutant, next primary pollutant is sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide, you can see it produced when coal and fuel is produced when coal and fuel oil are burned, when coal and fuel oil are burned. This is the main source and it is present in the power plant exhaust. Narrow the affects it affects the narrow the airway, causing wheezing, shortness of breath, especially in those asthma patients. You can see sulfur dioxide. So what are the sources, natural sources? The natural sources of this sulfur is like volcanic activity releases sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, H2S and S and a particulate in the form of particulate matter into the atmosphere. And it also liberates on combustion of fossil fuels. Combustion of sulfur containing fuels in thermal power plants and the automobiles. Sn plus O2 gives SO2. Oxygen formed by thermal decomposition of ozone oxidizes this H2S hydrogen sulfide into atmosphere to sulfur dioxide. See, you can see H2S plus 3O combines with 3 molecules of nascent oxygen to give sulfur dioxide and water. This is one way of sulfur dioxide releasing into the atmosphere as a pollutant. Other ways, the sulfur trioxides are formed by the oxidation of sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere by reacting with oxygen or molecular oxygen or ozone. Three possibilities of liberating sulfur dioxide. One is reacting with a nascent oxygen, one is reacting with molecular oxygen, another way of by reacting with ozone. When it reacts with acid oxygen to give sulfur trioxide, oxygen to give sulfur trioxide, and with ozone to give sulfur trioxide. These are the possible ways of liberating sulfur trioxide into the atmosphere. So what are the sources means? The sources of oxides of sulfur, different forms of oxides of sulfur like sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, hydrogen sulfide and sulfur, and also in the form of particulate matter. How it liberates? These are the example reactions by combustion of sulfur into oxygen is from the automobiles to give sulfur dioxide, and when H2S react with oxygen to give sulfur dioxide, and sulfur trioxide is liberated when reacting with molecular oxygen, ozone and the nascent oxygen. So this is how oxides of sulfur liberates into the atmosphere. When you look at the effects, it causes cardiac respiratory and pulmonary diseases. It causes eye irritation, throat troubles. It causes corrosion to the metals, damages plant cells, membrane, chlorophyll and reduces the crop yield. Sulfur trioxide in air causes discomfort, irritation and respiratory tract, and sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide formed in the atmosphere can combine with water vapor forming hydrogen sulfide mist. This is usually we call it as particulate matter. It causes the acid rain. It causes acid rain. So sulfur dioxide, water and sulfur H2SO3 to give sulfur trioxide. These are the effects. How mist can damage the natural and synthetic fibers, and it causes the yellowing of paper and loss of its mechanical strength. These are the effects causes due to sulfur dioxide. How we can control the sulfur? The sulfur can be controlled from the fuels. Reduce the sulfur dioxide emission by reduction of sulfur dioxide emission, and sulfur dioxide containing gases processed through ammonia solution, where ammonium sulfate is obtained as a byproduct. You can see this is by treating with ammonium hydroxide with sulfur dioxide, you can convert this sulfur dioxide into ammonium sulfate. This way we can have a control on liberation of sulfur dioxide. And also by Chirox method, gas containing sulfur dioxide are treated with alkaline KMnO4 solution through a spray when oxidation of sulfur dioxide takes place. Use of clean sulfur-free nuclear power generate electricity, and natural gas reduces sulfur dioxide emission. You can use the natural gases, also reduces the emission of sulfur oxides of sulfur into the atmosphere. So these are this is about sulfur dioxide. Next is oxides of nitrogen. So what are its sources? These are the sources, and these are the effects, and these are the controlling measures of oxides of sulfur liberating into the atmosphere. Any clarification is required in this? Sulfur dioxide. Any clarification is required in this sulfur dioxide? Are you there, students?
Yes, ma'am, here only.
I am asking, any clarification is required in sulfur dioxide? I am asking.
No, ma'am, it's clear.
It is there in the notes, every point. So any air pollutant they ask, you have to write the sources, effects and the controlling measures. Okay. Every point, individual point I have given there. Here in detail I am explaining how the reactions are taking place of each pollutant. Every pollutant will be asked for 7 marks and 6 marks. So be prepared for these sources, effects and
So, ma'am, in that we
controlling
need to
measures,
spread the
application.
source and all.
Yes, sources are there. One point if you write is enough. Okay.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In the notes I have given in points only, not in detail. Okay. Read that. That is more than enough for the each pollutant to write, to take the marks. Okay. So when you look at, I'll complete this nitrogen dioxide. If you look at the nitrogen dioxide, it is reddish and brown gas. It produces when nitric oxide combines with oxygen into the atmosphere. It present in the car exhaust and the power plants. It affects the lungs and causes wheezing, increases the chances of respiratory infection. So nitrogen dioxide means it is affect the lungs. It affects the lungs. Remember this. So what are its sources? So there are 2 or 3 forms of nitrogen oxides. Oxides are nitric oxide, nitrogen dioxide, nitrous oxide, and are refers as oxides of nitrogen. The reactions of oxygen with nitrogen compounds in the fuel. This is termed as a fuel as a nitrogen, oxides of nitrogen. So what are the reactions of nitrogen with the nitrogen in combustion air? This is termed thermal oxidation takes place to give thermal oxides of nitrogen. What are the sources? It produces naturally by lightning. See, remember, it produces naturally by lightning, by volcano and bacterial decay process. In plants, especially bacterial decay process. It produced automobile exhaust, combustion of coal, natural gas and gasoline. Basic reactions are what are the sources of getting oxides of nitrogen is when nitrogen oxide combines with oxygen to give nitrogen dioxide, combines with oxygen to give nitrogen dioxide in three ways: molecular, ozone and nitrite with nitrogen oxide to give nitrogen pentoxide. So these are the different possible ways of the reactions of getting oxides of nitrogen into the environment as a pollutant. Once the pollutant enters, what are the effects? It affects high concentration of this causes inflammation of lung tissue. It causes respiratory illness. It reacts with water and ozone to form nitric oxide and nitrogen pentoxide, which causes main reason for acid rain because of oxides of nitrogen, because of chromic effects, cell membrane damage and stress on the heart. In sunlight, nitrogen oxide combines with hydrocarbon from photochemical smog, which causes limits the visibility of roads, which limits because of this photochemical smog and particulate matter, which limits the visibility. It causes eye irritation, it causes difficulty in breathing, and it causes lung cancer and asthma and bronchitis. So how we can control? We can control by adopting a catalytic converter in the IC engine and by converting to nitrogen and oxygen. If you adopt this catalytic converter, what happens? All these oxides of nitrogen are converts in the form of nitrogen and molecular nitrogen and oxygen. So now we can break the chain of oxides of nitrogen. We can control the liberation of oxygen oxides of nitrogen during this combustion. And by selective catalytic reduction, selectively by using the catalyst, in presence of this you can also reduce the pollutant, oxides of pollutant liberating into the atmosphere, and it can be converted into nitrogen and water. And absorption method by treating with fuel gas by injection at sorbents, like absorption means it gets absorbed on the surface. Sorbents like ammonia and powdered limestone, it get absorbed. These are the sorbents which absorbs the oxides of nitrogen on the surface and remove oxides of nitrogen and the other pollutants. This way we can have a control on oxides of nitrogen. The next is hydrocarbon. We'll see in the next class. Yes, any clarification is required in today's class? Students, anything asked in the fourth module in your IA, just you remember 3 points. Any pollutants they ask, you have to write the sources, effects and the controlling measures. Okay. Write, it is asked for 7 marks and 6 marks. According to the marks, you have to answer. Is it clear to everyone?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, can you please repeat once again the syllabus for second internals?
Yes, syllabus for second internals, metal finishing chapter. I think from metal finishing we have given up to principles, right? After that, electroplating, electroless plating process is there, right? Electroplating of chromium, hard chromium and decorative chromium. Electroless plating of nickel and copper is there. Those things you study from the metal finishing chapter. and distinguish between electroplating and electroless plating. These are the important questions you can study from metal finishing chapter. I think in the unit test 4 I have given 4 questions, right? Those questions you can prepare, okay? And the next is corrosion, next is fuels chapter, completely fuels chapter. Third module, complete third module. And fourth module, what I am doing now, pollutants. It is easy only, right, to write the pollutants, about pollutants. So that pollutants, whatever I am going to cover, those things you have to answer in the second IA. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am,
Okay.
clear.
Okay. Any doubt
Yes,
in
ma'am.
that second IA portions?